Hello, fiber lovers. This is Evelyn of the Modern Needle. Today is October 25. It's a Saturday morning, and it's been a while since you've seen me face to face. I posted many short little YouTubes that are maybe helpful and maybe not. Um, but it's been a while since I posted face to face, and therefore I kind of have quite a bit to show you. So, thank you to all of our new members that have clicked the little subscribe button and the like button. Welcome to my channel. I call myself the Modern Needle because I do a little bit of everything. I do knitting, crochet, I quilt, I cross stitch, and anything else crafty that comes to mind. At this particular moment in my life, I've been doing various apple cakes, so I might throw that in there. But mainly we talk about knitting and the crafting and my journey about that. I really don't have a set format as such. So we'll dive right in. So as I talked in past episodes, I'm a rather large girl. They changed my medication. Again, I have rheumatoid arthritis with a few other complications. So every time they do that, it seems like I gain about 5 pounds. So I went from a 2x to, I'm crossing into the 3x kind of realm. And I was really not happy with the format of sweaters that I'm picking for my size, because as I get bigger, I seem to want to hide my body and just balloon everything around it. And I was thinking, because I do spend money and time on it, so maybe I want to rethink like what is the best sweater shape for my body. And I think I've come up with some things. I'm not quite finished researching it, but here it goes. And actually, if you hear a cat meowing, she's here somewhere. She's walking away back there. Um, she kind of adopted us. She is a stray from the neighborhood. And every time I opened the door, she would come in and make herself right at home. And we just kind of adopted her as she adopted us. And when I started naming her, my son said, "Oh my God, Mom, you're just done. It's our cat now." So she's still a little bit food crazy. And she still wants the in and out all the time. But now we have the furnace on. So now she'll have to stay in for a little bit. But that's why you hear her meowing. Anyways, back to, and she might even hop up here and make an appearance. I'm not sure. Back to the sweater. So what I decided for my shape, I don't like the overcut shoulders. I could wear them in the past, but I think as being a bigger girl, it's almost like, in my opinion, what I found for myself, I like the military cuts almost. Like I like to have a shoulder shaping that comes up here, that gives the body a little bit of a shape. I don't think I really understood the A-line shaping and all of that, but A-line goes out a little bit, which means that under the bust, it's not an empire waist, but it does give the belly a bit more room without being clingy. So I kind of like that. I like the a shape, an hourglass shape. I had test knitted a sweater, and I think they call them pemblum shape. And this is the sister pemblum that I test knitted in a linen, and you can see how it goes in and out. It is my best fitting garment at this time. And it came out really, really pretty. You can wear the back, the higher back up at the front or in the back. Sorry, I had a little yarn tail on there. But it is a very beautiful sweater, and because it's in linen, it drapes really pretty. I'll link my Ravelry profile at the bottom of the video, and then you can go ahead and look it up. So my mind was going over all kinds of different patterns, and I had a cardigan pattern in my Ravelry store for a really long time. I kept thinking it was Amy Herzog, but it's not. It is called Pretty in Jeans, And this is the cardigan, and I want to show you the bottom here. It is very unique and it's really gorgeous. The drape is really nice. I put a pocket in myself. Again, I'll link to my Ravelry page. This is the back of it, and it took 3.5 100-gram sport yarn hanks. I'll put it on for you. Okay, the cat's around. So you can see that it fits really nice. Again, it's one of my better garment fits. Okay, where are you going? Okay, move on for a minute. So you can see this here. It is really pretty. I put a pocket in it and I made it a bit too deep, so I had to fold it up a little bit in here, which is not a problem because you actually can't see it. I made the pocket in a different color because why not? Here is my little noise maker. There she goes. I know. Okay, go. Like I said, I'll link to my Ravelry page. So for garments, this was kind of it. I made a shawl. This is a Melanie Berg from Maryland, and the pattern reminds me of Marigold or Lazy Susans, not Marigold, Lazy Susans or Euthanasia. Am I showing you even the right side? No, I'm not. This is the right side here, and it knitted up really pretty. I made the shawl a bit smaller. These are 3 repeats of the Echinacea pattern instead of 4 because I didn't have enough of the blue, and it was actually getting quite big enough anyways. That fuzzy's in my mouth. But it was a bit of a strange pattern because I love knitting lace, but normally you knit lace in the front, and in the back of the lace you just knit them as they appear. This pattern was actually written backwards, I think. Not backwards, but this is what the designer decided. All of the lacing happened on the back of the pattern and not on the front, which was really weird. Like it wasn't an intuitive knit, let's put it that way. I think by the time I was done on the 3rd repeat, at the end of the 3rd repeat, it finally clicked that I needed to do the opposite of what the pattern said. Like I needed to do the opposite, but it wasn't intuitive. So therefore I really didn't enjoy this a whole lot, even though I do enjoy the finished product. I'll put it on. And I do like asymmetrical patterns just because they sit better. Get this bit around here. So it is a beautiful shawl, mostly is garter. But yeah, that was not intuitive and I did not enjoy that very much. But I am glad that I made it, because I have it in my I had it in my queue to knit for a very long time, and now that I have it, I'm quite pleased. The other thing that I did is I'm going to Germany on Wednesday until November 17th. We had originally planned to go in February. My mother, who is 97, my older sister, myself, and my younger sister, we were going to go over because we came here through the military. We immigrated to Canada, but long time ago. I have Canadian citizenship now. I consider myself a Canadian. I've been here longer than I've been in Germany. But we do still have lots of family over there, so we're going to go and visit. We were going to go in February, but then mom wasn't well, and I have a child that has schizophrenia, so sometimes I can't leave as long as I would like. So I was only going to go for 2.5 weeks anyway. So my plan still stayed, but we moved it on. Mom wasn't well. Now we're going to go, and it's just my younger sister and I, because my brother-in-law and my mom are not doing 100% well. So my older sister is going to stay home with mom and her husband. So I was racking my brain on different things of what to knit and what to take. And sometimes I tend to really go down into a rabbit hole. I've been making fingerless mitts, partly because I have Raynaud's, which means my hands turn very cold. And for the last few years, I made a lot of fingerless mitts for Christmas and any other occasion. And I kind of streamlined the process because last year I made mom some mitts for, they were meant to be for Mother's Day. But as you know, we as knitters, our timing is not quite right. So the mittens were ready for Mother's Day. But I picked a pattern that had a distinct right and a distinct left pattern. So when I was almost done with the second mitten, I thought, oh, that was really stupid because mom is blind, 95% blind. So there is no way she can figure out the right and the left. So I thought, well, I'll put a little heart on the cuff, a little red heart. They were yellow, and I put a little red heart on the cuff. Then I thought, she's not going to see this, so why don't I put a little knot on the outside, like a little tassel? And I did that, and so that she can feel it. But then I thought, I don't know why I made this so complicated, because in reality, if she has to feel around for the mittens forever to know which arm goes where, forget it. That's just too complicated. So I frogged the mittens and I looked for a pattern that has no right or left mitten. I came up with a WAUM, W-A-U-M pattern. And again, I link my Ravelry page, and then you can look through all of the ones that I did because they're very easy to amend. I believe there is 3 sizes in there. And I made them in many different sizes. I made them smaller with different yarn, with different gauge, and you'll get the feel of it after you've done a couple, and you'll be able to do that as well. But I'll link my page so you can have a look. So, but then I thought, well, we're now in a crazy technology age where if you have mittens on, you can't actually text, you can't smoke. Smoking is secondary. There's not too many people that smoke anymore, but you can't text. It's mitten on, mitten off, mitten on, mitten off. So I thought, and this is because I have Raynaud's, I think that's kind of what made me think of it. If I make them longer, and they kind of look silly like this, you can see they really do look a bit silly. But when I have it on, and this is Patton's classic yarn. I can fold this over if I'm not very cold and I want to text. And if I'm really cold, I can fold them up. And then I can put my fingers in. But as soon as I want to text or I want to do something textile, which is sometimes what bothers me about mittens anyways, I can fold it down. So this is the pattern that I sort of came up with. And in the pattern, the thumb is kind of like knit stitches, and I wanted to carry the pattern through. This is 3 knits and 1 purl. So here sorry, 3 knits, 2 purls. Here it didn't matter, but then I kind of completely hijacked the pattern a little bit, but it's still all based on the same thing. And you can see that I made many of them. This is a bit shorter. This is the male version. I made smaller ones for teenagers. And then of course I had to make little ones for little people. Like this here is for my grandson. This is for my 4-year-old niece in Germany. This is for my 7-year-old grandson. I made another pair. This is pure alpaca. They came out really nice, and I did two knits, 2 purls, and I did that for most of them. And then 2 weeks ago, we went to a knitter's frolic that the Little Red Mitten put on. And very often I don't go to yarn fairs anymore. I have so much yarn, and even as fast as I knit, I don't think I'll be able to knit that before I die, really. I don't think I can. Plus, I still knit for stores, and the knitting that I do for the stores is not handled in cash. It is actually handled in trade off yarn. I have an account there. So I really didn't want to pay money to go to some of these places and then spend more money on yarn, which there's actually no point, because I could open my own store myself. So the Knitters Frolic is just knitters getting together, and they have kind of like a show and tell, and it's at a hotel, and the parking lot of the hotel, it had a giant tiger in it, it had a Denny's in it, I think. There was a mall which had a food court. So it was, the 3 days were $25, which in my opinion was extremely reasonable. But you get together with other knitters, and some of them brought baked goods, and you get together and you can just shoot the breeze with anybody that loves fiber, whether it's crocheting or knitting or spinning. People brought their spinning wheels, and it was a really, really lovely weekend. And it was the perfect place to sit and knit these. I can make one of these pairs in an afternoon or an evening. I think it takes me about 4 hours or 4.5 if I'm really yakking or whatever for the pair. These ones here are even a bit longer. They go right to the fingertip, and then they can be folded back. And what they had there, they had a take 'em or leave 'em kind of table there. So people put all kinds of yarn up, and you could take whatever you want, however much you wanted. And you could leave some or not leave some, take some, not take some. But somebody had some beautiful hanks of hand-dyed yarn, and there were 4 of them. And on the second day, they were still there. So I felt comfortable about taking all 4 hanks. And this is what I knitted up with them. So this was color number 1. And this is color number 2. And you do get a little bit of pooling, but even though I hate pooling, it doesn't seem to bother me in these things. Like here, I don't actually think I had any pooling, or if it is, I couldn't tell. These were 2 of the colors. And this was the 3rd color, and the fourth color is over there. I can see it, but I haven't really done anything with that one. So I went down the rabbit hole for that. And I also finished another pair of color work mittens, and this is done with Holst Super Soft. And like I said before, don't let the word super soft fool you, because they're not soft. It's a hardy yarn. They are quite pretty. Yeah, I really like them a lot. I can put them on. They turned out a little bit bigger than I wanted, but I think if I agitate them a little bit, to just felt them just a tiny bit, they'll be perfect. Oh, no, it's this way. Yeah. I was just thinking, what am I doing? What's going on? Yeah. Actually, they're together this way, and I don't really know how to show you without going backwards. So when the 2 thumbs meet, kind of the pattern meets. The back of the thumb is also quite pretty. My dominant yarn was on the bottom, which my dominant yarn was the gold. When I look at the color work that I want to do, I kind of figure out in my head which yarn do I want to come to the forefront. So that's the dominant. It makes a step forward. So the dominant for me is always on the bottom. For some reason, I can remember that pretty easy. And as you can see, it worked out really well. So that is my mitten thing. Then I had thought, I play with gauge a lot. For example, I have plans of making this cardigan again, but I will make it in a worsted or even a bit thicker. And then I'll probably make the smallest size instead of making one of the bigger sizes. I'll have to see how much bigger that I am. So when I start, and often with these, you start at the top, it's a top down, and it's all knit in one piece. It has gorgeous raglan shaping. And the bevel at the bottom is made with short rows, but it's still all in one piece. I never had to break thread and move on to the other one. I'll start on the top until I have a swatch that I can measure, and then I'll measure and I'll see which, because in the top, like the when you start off at the top neck, the stitches difference from a small to a really, really large is maybe 10 different stitches. So I pick a size that I think it might be in between there, and then I'll just adjust it as I go along. And I'll measure how many stitches that I have. I multiply that with my width, then I know how many stitches I need about. And then I can have a look and see, let's say I'm just saying this number for an example because I actually don't know. But let's say my size, I need 100 stitches across in the yarn and in the needles that I want to have. I figured that out by my swatch and multiplied it by the size, my upper bust size or my high bust size. And then I'll have a look and see in any sizes that this pattern offers, and some patterns now offer crazy sizes like 15 sizes or whatever. Does any of them need 100 stitches or around there? And if they do, I'll just circle that and I'll use that size, no matter, it could be an extra small, it could be a medium, it doesn't actually matter, because I know that according to my measurements, that should be my size. And it's a cardigan, so if I'm in doubt, I'll just go up a couple of stitches, even if it's a couple of stitches all the way around. I'd rather have it on the loose size side than on the smaller side. But one of the other things how I play with gauge is, if there is something small that I want to make and I want to make it a lot bigger, then I'll use whatever yarn I want and I'll pick maybe the smallest size or whatever. So I've been making these Knubelchens and I must have made 100 of them. Maybe some of them even more. I made some for sexually abused kids, and then we made the hat really, really long so that they could hide the head, and then they could talk about their experience to their counselors, but the face is not shown, and it seems to take some of the shame that the children feel away. So I made a lot of them. Anyways, they have two different sizes. One is a mini, which is a keychain, and it's made with sock yarn and a 2.25 needle, and I think it's only supposed to be about this big to fit onto your keyring. Well, the regular size is this guy in sock yarn, but I didn't use sock yarn. I used a 4mm needle and I made the mini. And the mini means, like, I think you have 20 stitches across here or 25, and the regular one has double of that. Um, and it is a free pattern. Again, it's linked in my Ravelry page. So very often I make them in way different sizes. I make them with 8mm needles, and then I also use the mini. Sometimes I make the head a bit longer. I made this one here for my mother. Like I said, she is 87 and she loves soft and cuddly things that she can just hug. And I made the head bigger and I stuffed it really tight with cotton and various other scraps, so it's a bit heavier. I didn't just want batting in here. I wanted the head to have a weight because she likes to cuddle it and she drags it around. And I believe I used 9mm needles, and this is also the mini. So have a look at my Ravelry page and see, I think I have notes in there. These are made with acrylic yarn and 6mm needles, and I'll take these to Germany as gifts with me. And then it's kind of like a wonderful opportunity to play with different hat size or hat different hat patterns. This one here, I offer a pattern for a newborn on my Ravelry page, and I use the top decrease for the top of this hat here, and then I just did the little top knot. And this here again is a little fuzzy one, and I'm not really sure if I used 8 or 6.5 or what I used. But these fuzzy yarns are just gorgeous. And again, I do use yarn snippets in the head plus batting, and I bat them really tight so that there is a little bit of weight to the head. And this here is the hat. I make mine a bit longer. They're really cute. Now, if you wanted to, you could put a face in here. You could use a little bit of rouge to make the cheeks red, and that kind of stays in. It gets blended into the fabric. You dab a bit of rouge on there with a brush or with a cotton pad, and then you just brush it until it's all in the fiber and it gets like little rosy cheeks. But I like them that they're faceless, and I often don't use pink. I use completely different colors. Like here I used purple for the face. I don't want them to be identifiable as any race or anything like that, so anybody can use them. They're non-sexual, they're non-racial, they're good softy for anybody, boy or girl. It actually doesn't matter. And again, it is a free pattern, and you'll find it in my Ravelry page because there are lots of these. But it is interesting to me how you can go from gauge like to these guys. And I think this is sort of the size of the regular one, but in 2.25 needles, it's the regular size. And this is still the mini, but in way bigger needles. Like you can see, they're all different sizes, and they all come out a little bit different. And they're so much fun with these novelty yarns or with the self-striping yarn, that I think they're just great. And you know, with Christmas coming up, again, these are, you can make one of these. I can make them in about 2.5 hours. If you are slow, even if it takes you like all week, it actually does not matter, because they're a lot of fun making them. What I do on, you knit the head, and then you change the yarn to whatever it is that you want it to be, or use the sock yarn, whatever you want. Then you knit the body until you get down to here, and this is the widest bit that you'll ever knit. Then you put the arms on hold and you put the legs on hold. And I have so many cabled round needles, that I can just pull in a cord with the needles, or you just put them on barber cord, or put them on DPNs, whichever way you want to do it, that everything is caught on hold with the extra corded needles that I have, and then I just pick up and keep on going. So for me, I don't have to fuss with anything. So that was that. Then I watched somebody's YouTube while I was knitting. I think the Norwegian knitter, just one second. The Norwegian knitter had she made these slippers, and they still need to be felted. And she made herself a challenge. I think she wanted to get 45 pairs out for Christmas, and she was behind, so she made herself a challenge to see how many of these slippers can she knit in 1 week. That was her challenge. And I was watching her, and it was, even at the end of the video, I was a little bit confused. Like, how do these things get together? Because the way that you knit them, I'll tell you how the pattern goes. And it is a Sandnes Garn, which is a yarn company, a Norwegian yarn company. And they made this pattern. Now, it's a European pattern, which means paper is expensive. So they don't really handhold you through the pattern. And I was thinking maybe I'll write it out and post it on my website for free, because it is not my pattern, but make it a bit more easy to understand and add the modifications that I made. And I'll show you how that worked. So I picked this yarn here, and I forget what the name of it is. It is 100% merino. It was $14 per hank on the Little Red Mitten, and I think it's 130 some odd yards on one hank. So I thought that should be enough for the slippers. They get knit with 6.5 millimeter needles. Either you can do the magic loop, or you can do DPNs, or 2 different circulars, whatever you think you want to do. But anyways, so they give you the cast on for the bottom, and there you cast on knitting a tube, but it's open here. So and then you have to sew it together. So I'm going to show you how this slipper goes together first, and then I'll talk about how it's made. If there's any interest, I'll make a video on showing how to make them, and I link to the free pattern, or if I get to translating it, if there is a response for it, like, let me know if you wanted it made a bit easier and a bit more adapted to today's knitting, where we do the magic loop and all of that. Then let me know and I'll do that. So this is how you knit it. It looks completely weird and strange. So this is the one slipper, and this is the other slipper that gets shoved on the inside out. Now you may notice that one is a bit narrower than the other, and it is a little bit shorter than the other, and I did that on purpose. Now in the pattern, this bit here is an open tube, and you have to sew it together. So the way that it goes is that this is the slipper. The slipper is like this, and the inside, which is leg number 2, or foot number 2 I should say, gets shoved into this outside bit for it to look like this. So if you're with me, this is the inside. You'll just push it into here. She wants to go outside, and she wants more food, but she's still a bit food crazy, because she was out there for months looking for food every day, I guess. So as soon as she gets food, she gets it gobbled up. So we give her food twice a day. Otherwise, I think she'll just explode. She hasn't really gotten that management of it yet. So anyways, I shoved these two inside one another. And here is the slipper. So here is the foot and the opening. This is what it looks like. The other bit I shoved in here. So when I showed you, I made a smaller one first, and I thought I have a 6-year-old niece and I have a 4-year-old niece, and they have the European sizes on their page, but that's really easy to find out. Like I put in shoe conversion European to North American, and it kind of gives you the sizes so that I could pick what I think will fit. And this is the one that I had picked. So this is Canadian yarn mixed with Lopi, which I think is Norwegian. I wanted to make one smaller slipper first to even figure out, do I understand the concept of how this slipper goes, because it looks like super complicated, but it actually isn't. Once I started knitting, it wasn't. So I'll pull this back apart so I can talk about the different bits. So this bit here is this. So when you look at it, it's this bit, right? When you look at this one here, it has a really pointy corner, which I didn't like, and I'm not going to cut these snips off until I felted them, but I didn't. I was going to felt them first before I tape the segment, but then I thought, well, I better not, because I want to show you what this looks like first, and then I'll post a picture at the end when they're all felted before I upload it. So this is this bit here. So I rounded my corner a little bit. You can see it better here than here. This is the inside one, but it is rounded. And because I use the Turkish cast on here, I don't need to sew anything together. In the original, there would be a seam back here on the outside and a seam on the inside, which I think just doubles this up. So I didn't really want to do that. So I did the Turkish cast on, which comes out really beautiful. I think it's really easy, but you can use Judy's Magic cast on if that's what you would like. And then I knitted the outside foot first, or what I chose to be the outside. And when I did the inside leg, I did it 2 rows shorter, and I did it 4 stitches narrower, because when I didn't do that, this one here, it does have like these folded lumps in here that I really hope will ease up when I felt them, but it was kind of harder to push together. Plus then I used my ends to weave on the outside, like to stitch the inside and the outside together. I can't pull this apart any longer because I had like running stitches. That's how I wove in the yarn tails. And I also made some crochet loops at the front and at the back, like you get for the Uggs or whatever, so that you can pull it on easier. With the second slipper, I already got a bit smarter, and I did the inside foot 2 rows shorter and 4 stitches narrower, and it fits together so much easier. It wasn't really like I didn't have to fight at all to get it in. And again, I used my yarn ends to kind of like stitch it up a little bit, and you can't really tell. And then once this is all felted, I'll just snip them off, which is fine. And inadvertently, this slipper is the second slipper got to be a bit smaller. I don't know if I had a different tension going or what was going on, or my hands were warm and I had a better attention. But once I felt this, I will just get my son to, well, they're not actually too far apart in the front. You can see it's just a little bit, maybe less than half an inch. So I'll have my son pull them. That'll be fine. I don't have the strength in my hand. But I was very happy that I decided to do the outside foot first before I did the inside foot. And I don't know why this looks so much shorter on camera, because when I did it, it wasn't really tons shorter by the count anyways. But I did run out here. So I thought I'll use the Briggs & Little Regal, which is 100% wool, and it does felt, because I felt it with this before, it may felt different from the merino, which that's always kind of like a chance that you're taking if you're using scraps to felt, or if you're doing different yarn blends together. Even I felt it a lot with Briggs & Little. The white felt different than the colors do, so by the time I might have to wash this one twice, this will be a complete wreck. So I kind of had to take my chances on it, because otherwise I'll have to go and buy a third one of these, which is not really what I want to do, because then the slippers are almost $50 before I even felt them, and I don't really want that. The next slippers, I think I'll just use the Briggs & Little, and I have lots of that, so we'll see. Anyways, I'll show you what the finished process is. And here you cast on 4 more stitches, and for the inside one I only cast on 2. So this is where the 2 stitches are shorter, and then I just did 2 more decreases on the top and on the bottom, so that I had 4 stitches less. And now I can shove it in so much easier. And these yarn tails here, I'll thread this when I'm ready, and I'll push it through this to this side. I'll push it in through here, and then have the needle come out this way, so I can just pull on the yarn tails to help me out, so that it lines up perfectly in here. And I'll do the same with this guy here. I'll thread it, bring it through to the other side, and I can do that because here I had to cast on extra stitches. I'll bring it through to the other side, and then make it come out this side here, and then I can just pull on it, so I know that they are aligned perfectly. And then I can get in there and align the top and the back of the foot. Once you get to the top of the foot, they did a right leaning decrease inside the foot. The decreases only happen on the right and on the left bit, not in the middle of the foot. So it's not a barn toe. It's almost like a wedge toe, but you draw it up together. You don't do the Kitchener stitch. I suppose you could do the Kitchener stitch, because you'll have 8 stitches all together, 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. So if you really wanted to Kitchener them, you could. In my case, I didn't. I drew the yarn around maybe 3 or 4 times so that it doesn't come out, and then I'll use this tail here, and I left it on purpose a little bit longer so that I can stitch the 2 layers together with a tiny running stitch. You won't be able to see it on the outside, but that'll just make sure that the 2 layers don't separate when you take the slipper off. But so they did that really well in the pattern, where it was knit 2 together, which knitting 2 together makes it a right leaning decrease. But on this side here, they also did the knit 2 together. So if I were to do that again, I would do the SSK on the one side to make it a left leaning decrease on this side here, and I would knit the 2 together on this side to make it to make right and left leaning decreases, sorry. And then it is a gorgeous slipper. I love the yarn. The yarn comes in a pinky purpley kind of thing, in this fall color that I have here. There is another fall color that they have. It comes in 4 or 5 different colors, and it's quite pretty. The name escapes me, but I'll have it in my Ravelry page. Then I was at the dentist this week, and I was sitting in the dentist chair, and I had my slippers on because I was going to be there for a while, and I had my hand knit socks on, and I chose a pair that I knitted, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. And when I overlapped my feet like this, I was just looking at my toes, and I thought, oh, it looks like I split the stitch on one of the sides of my toe, where I only caught part of the stitch, and there was just a tiny thread that stuck up, and didn't it? So by the time I came home, I actually wore a little hole in here. So I will fix this with a mattress stitch, and I don't remember. I know that this was a Mary Maxim yarn, but I don't know if I have any left, and I'm not going to spend time looking for it. So I'll find a soft yellow to fix this, and if there's any interest, I'll make a short YouTube out of this to show how I fix these, and that'll work for anytime you split the yarn and you only catch half the stitch. And I think that is really easy to do. Even when I was working on this scarf here that had 2 threads running along, it is so easy to just catch one thread and not the other, that I actually switched to very blunt needles. I love knitting with Chagu, and I love knitting with Haya Haya. They're actually my favorites. But I also use any of the Mindless or whatever the other needles are. I have Lantern Moon, and I have all kinds. But I picked the dullest needle that I had that had almost no tip, which were my Addy Click. And I knitted with them, and I didn't split the two yarns that I knit together as much as I would if I would have kept the pointy needles up. And the shaft is shorter there too, so it was actually a lot better to knit with. And anyways, I always have to check my work for split stitches before I do anything, because it does happen. And if it happens way below where I don't want to ladder back, because that's a bit of a pain as well, bringing it up and then working with it so that you can't see that you laddered it down and brought it back up. I'll just use a mattress stitch and close over it, and you can't really tell. So if anybody's interested in that, leave me a comment and I'll show that in an upcoming video. And the last thing that I wanted to show you is actually sewing related, because I do have so many knitting needles. I have an extra set of Knitter's Pride, and my niece in Germany is 8, I think, and she wants to knit. She already knows how to knit because she learned it in school. And it was funny because she made the same duck that I did when I started 60 years ago or whatever that was, 55 years ago in school. So I thought that was just a hilarious thing that actually she is doing the same project to start with that we did. But anyways, she doesn't really have a good needle set, and I have extra, and I bought these on Marketplace. So I thought I'll sew her a case for it. And these cases, I kind of thought about what it is that I want, and I didn't want it too big. The outside of the case is this panel here that I quilted. And it will go together like this. I'll put a pocket in the middle where she can put different cords and things. And that'll be finished this weekend so that I can take it with me on Wednesday and give that to her. I think the reason why I hadn't finished it, I was debating, do I want to make it like a pencil case where I put a zipper around the outside that goes on all three sides. So it kind of looks like this. Or do I want to make it like a roll where she can roll it up? Oh, I lost one of these things down here too. This was another one of them in a purpley color with a little hat. I wasn't really sure how I want to do it. I think if I make it as a roll, I'll have to put a flap over top of the needles so that they don't spill out. The bottom's not closed, that's why I lost. Sorry, the bottom is not closed, that's why the needles there slipped out. I wasn't sure if I want to do the flap on the top and then maybe do some snap buttons and then make it as a roll, or if I just want to do a zipper case around it and use some of those clear chopping board from the dollar store and insert them in between here to make this a bit stiffer so it will be like a pencil case. And I think maybe that's kind of what I'm leaning towards because she's just a kid. I think it's easier to work with a slipper than, no, to work with a zipper instead of a roll, but I'm not 100% sure. The roll would be easier even though I haven't sewn the top flap, so I'll still have to do that. I don't know. I'll see how that works out. So the last thing in closing that I did want to show you is I had somebody on Facebook Marketplace had shown these 3D printing blocking boards. Let me see, 3, 6, 8. This board here is 9.5 inches. It came with 12 pegs, and you can see that the pegs are rather long. It turned out it was a gentleman doing these things, and he had a 7-inch board. So I asked him if he can make them any bigger. So he said like the biggest that he can go is 10.5 inches, and some of the sides might be a bit smushed. As in here, I don't know if you can see it or not, which I don't care about that. So when he offered them, mine were like his prototype, and when he offered them, he made them 9.5 inches is the biggest size, and the board was, I think he charged $11 or something, and I thought, whoever that is doesn't really know the value of things for knitters or crocheters or whatever, because that can be for knitted squares or crocheted squares or whatever you think. And when I picked it up, I was talking to him, realized number one, it was a man, and then I asked him if he can make sock blocking boards in the 3D printer. So I kind of explained to him what they are, and he doesn't craft. Somebody had just asked him to make that, so he did. So he came up with this sock blocking board. A lot of thought went into this. Now you kind of need 2 of these. The sizes are adjustable. I'll show you because I bought 2. He ended up charging $15 for each because there are a lot of work, and I'll show you what the work that man made himself is just a little bit crazy. This is the handle. This is the leg shaft. This is part of the leg shaft and the footboard, and this is the foot. So you can make from here to here. The foot can be any size. The leg shaft can be kind of any size, whether you have a knee high or whatever you have. And then, of course, you can add the handle to it. Now, if you saw, you just got to check this out. Like, he made all of the screws and the nuts that went with it. That just blew my mind. So, as when you saw that I pulled on my sock, this is actually, it could be a bit wider, but in reality, that's fine. But what I used them for, and what I really liked them for, was when I was blocking my mittens. I don't have any mitten boards, so I kind of came up with this to pull the mitten over so that you can see how they look at. Because if you have a ribbed mitten like this, it's really hard to see. Like when I showed them to my sister, she says, "What is that, for a kid?" It's like, no, it's not for a kid. Well, it looks kind of tiny. Well, I get that. But once you have it on the board, they look completely different, right? From one to the other. But then when I saw these, I thought, oh my gosh, this would be just the perfect board to pull the mittens on, and this goes so easy. And here they are. Um, and because there's so many bits and pieces to it, I can pull two mittens onto this. I can even make this a bit longer and then pull it on so that it'll have the same length as this, and I can use them to take pictures and do what I want to do with them. So even though I probably will not use them for socks a ton, I can see myself using them quite a bit for this. But even just two homemade cardboard things that I kind of taped together, they also work for these. Now, a friend of mine, she ordered mitten boards on Amazon, and I think that they're $10. They wouldn't arrive before I go to Germany anyways. So I thought, well, I'll wait until I come back. But to me, they looked like, I bought some sock blockers off of Temu at one time, because I wanted to see how are they. And when the kids were in school and they had shop or whatever they had, they made these tiny things that are almost like puzzles that can snap into one another, and the board is like not even a quarter-inch thick. Like this here is hard plastic, so this is not like that ply board, or I don't really know how you call that wood in English. In German you call them Spannholz, because they're just these thin layers of wood that a tiny saw can just work through very easy for little model planes or whatever. So they're almost like a thicker cardboard, but they're not cardboard, they're wood, and I think they would splinter and break very easy, so I wouldn't use them a whole lot. I don't even want to pull the socks on and off a lot. They weren't 100% smooth. So I wonder how her mitten blocking boards are when she gets them. And then I'll make up my mind. I think the Little Red Mitten had gorgeous ones at one time, and I think that they were $50 or $60, and they were the wood was varnished and it was a bit thicker, and they had like stars, Christmas stars or snow stars or something like that etched in it, and they were quite beautiful. But at that time I really wasn't making a whole lot of mittens, and I don't think I'll make mittens again as per se, unless somebody really wants them. I'll make these from now on, because you can, like I said, you fold them down when it's not super cold, or when you're texting, and then you fold them back up when you're kind of cold, and that makes them a bit more usable, I think, in today's world. The only thing that I had to be careful of was how I cast off, and I used when I cast off my socks for toe up socks, I do a yarn over and knit, and then I do another yarn over and knit, and then I pull the yarn over and then I cast them off together. And every stitch is made that way, but it has a little bit of a flare. Now in my socks, it'll only have a flare. You can see that here, and they're kind of stretched out quite a bit because these socks are old. They have a bit of a flare in the top, which is okay because my feet swelled, so I need this space here. So for me, when my foot is in it, you can't actually see that there is a flare in there at all, but you can see it when it's stationary like this. On the mittens here, I did it with every second one. So it was a yarn over, a knit, pull the yarn over, and every second knit got a yarn over to pull over. So they are very, very stretchy, but they don't really have a huge flare. Okay, I pulled it out a little bit, but here you can see when they're stationary, not too much of a flare. Oh, this was the bottom, sorry, this is the top. They do have a bit of a flare now that I look at it. But when they're on your hand like this, there is no flare. So don't think that you made a mistake if all of a sudden they flare out a bit. My regular cast off was just a little bit snug. So I think when it goes over the knuckles, depending on how wide your hand is, that might be a bit of an issue. But otherwise, I think that was all great. So when I go to Germany in closing, I'll go to the Schachenmeier factory, which is the Regia. I think maybe it's the one that does the Zauberball. Anyways, I'll go to that factory because it's only 30 minutes from where we're staying. And we'll also go to the Zweigart factory, which also has some yarns, but they mainly have stitching fabric, and that's by Stuttgart. So I'll post a lot of pictures. I'll take mini videos. So if you want to follow that along, you can follow me on Instagram as The Modern Needle. I'm now on TikTok as well. I'm not quite sure what platform I'll post like the mini videos or pictures. They'll be on Facebook for sure, again under The Modern Needle. Lots of different places. So I'll see you when I get back, and I'll hope to put up one more knit and chat before Christmas. I hope. Sometimes life takes over and things get a little bit crazy busy here, but I'll give it a whirl. In the meantime, I wish you very happy knitting. Let me know if you're interested in how to fix a sock when you have or how to fix a split stitch, really. And now my split stitch is actually a dropped stitch that I can pick up and I can show you if you're interested in that. And if you're interested in me working out the sock pattern here so that you can knit along with me and still have enough time for Christmas to make some felted slippers, or even after Christmas. I think that they're good at any time, and I think I'll round this corner even a bit more when I work on the pattern a little bit, and it'll be posted free on my site because it is not my pattern. It is a Sandnes Garn pattern as a free download, but it's just a one-pager thing and it wasn't super easy to follow. So let me know if you're interested in that. Like I said, in the meantime, enjoy your time knitting, and I wish you a fantastic day.